Welcome to the September 21st, 2020 meeting of the Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Commission of the City of Glendale. Due to the evolving situation with the COVID-19 novel coronavirus and health recommendations from the LA County Health Department, the Glendale Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Commission meeting will be available to the public electronically. Due to social distancing requirements, the public will not be able to attend the meeting. The public is encouraged to watch and participate from the safety of their homes to practice social distancing. The meeting can be viewed on local cable, Charter Cable Channel 6 and AT&T UVerse Channel 99, or it streams online at https://government/public-meeting-portal. May we have the roll call?
Commissioners Eberly? Commissioner Eberly? Present. Kalfayan?
Present.
Michaels?
Present.
Patel? Present. And President Wolfson.
Present.
The agenda for the September 21st, 2020 regular meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall on or before Friday, September 18, 2020. Item 2 is introductions and presentations. At A is introduction of new Commissioner Jane Patel.
Thank you, President Wolfson, members of the Commission. I'd like to introduce our newest Commissioner, Commissioner Patel. She's been a Glendale resident for 15 years. She works for Timeframe Entertainment as Head of Development, overseeing development of company slate, spearheading evolution of creative product, coordinating with company partners, and developing and creating sales materials for product, bookkeeping, and accounts receivable. She sits on various boards and committees. She is a board member for the Glendale Environmental Coalition, Glendale College Parents Education Association, and a number of other parent clubs that she's involved with. I would like to welcome Commissioner Patel to the Recreation and Community Services, Parks, Recreation and Community Services Commission. Commissioner Patel.
Thank you so much. This is really an honor to sit on this commission with all of the rest of the commissioners, as well as work with such a very involved and important program, department that provides all of these incredible services and programs to the city. Thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to the work that we have before us.
Thank you. Welcome.
Can I say so? I would like to extend an especially warm welcome to Jane. I know Jane from the Glendale Environmental Coalition, and so it's like a little reunion to have her on the commission, so welcome aboard.
Thank you so much, Susan. It's great to be working with you.
Next item, please.
Next is item 3, upcoming council agenda items.
Thank you, President Wolfson, members of the Commission. On September 22nd, we have a joint report with Public Works Department on the Ducamagian Park Nature Education Center restroom project. This is a resolution adopting plans and specifications and directing the city clerk to advertise for bids. On September 29th, we have a report regarding Amendment 1 to fiscal year 2020-2021 Elderly Nutritional Meals Program, Subaward Accepting Additional Coronavirus Relief and Economic Security Act, the CARES Act funding allocation for the Senior Meals Program. And we have another item, approve and authorize the mayor to sign the third amendment of Phase 2 to the Memorandum of Understanding between the Verdugo Workforce Development Board and the required local workforce partners. That's it for the next couple weeks.
Next item, please.
Next item 4, commission staff comments.
Nothing? Commissioner Everly, do you have any comments?
My only comment is that in driving around the city and knowing that it is much healthier to be outside rather than inside, I'm pleased that we have such lovely places for people to spend their socially distanced social time. So thank you, Coco and team, for keeping things so lovely.
Thank you. Commissioner Michaels, do you want?
I'd like to go ahead and echo Commissioner Everly's comments and thank the staff for their efforts to keep the parks clean and safe. I do have one question specifically about Rockhaven. That has been on the council agenda recently, and my understanding is a new caretaker has taken up residence on the property. With the damage to the wall, I had been seeing and hearing of more people on the property when they shouldn't be. I just wanted to see if there was a quick update on maintenance or status of Rockhaven.
Sure, President Wolfson, members of the commission, Commissioner Michaels, basically we looked at the wall, ourselves, Public Works, and Jay Platt from our historic preservationist. We will be doing some minor repairs to the wall. We will be also fencing the area, so which will prevent people from climbing into the area and hanging out in the park. Our caretaker there currently basically walks around, does his walkthrough on a daily basis. If he sees anything, he'll go ahead and contact the police department and also his supervisor to report it.
Mr. Boligan, if I may.
Sure.
President Wolfson, member of the commission, Commissioner Michaels, yes, we've had activity before the new caretaker went, and we had actually increased activity at the facility. Since then, we have seen it reduced a little bit, and we've also had a lot of staff on site, either doing some light maintenance interior and over walking around with our friends at Public Works and engineers to look at the security of the wall. As Mr. Boligan mentioned, we have shored that wall so it doesn't further deteriorate. And we're looking at, on the Honolulu side of the open space, the southwest corner entrance where it's just open space, we are looking at fencing that area to prevent more people from entering the property. So those actions are at play. We're also working with Public Works and getting some estimates on tarping some of the roofs. That process is also at play right now, and we're looking at getting some of the roofs tarped before the rainy season comes.
I'm happy to hear that you're looking at tarping the roofs to prevent further rain damage. Thank you.
Okay, I just want to thank staff again. I thanked last month, but I really appreciate all the extra work you guys are putting in to sanitize all the restrooms, and it's a lot of extra work. And I noticed we have some new material covering the playground equipment at the park in my neighborhood, and I think that's working better, if I'm not mistaken, at keeping people from tearing it down. It's a little bit more sturdy, and I think that's good. And I really appreciate how everyone has innovated to deal with this public health crisis. I mean, it's not an easy thing, so I really appreciate it. So thank you. Okay. Next item.
Next on the agenda is item 5, oral communication.
No calls. There are no calls. Next item, please.
Okay, next is consent items. At A is approval of the minutes of the commission regular meeting held on August 17, 2020.
Do any of my fellow commissioners have any corrections or edits?
There is no correction, I will move it.
Okay. We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Roll call.
Commissioners Everly,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Patel. You're welcome to abstain since you were not part of the meeting.
I was just going to say, I wasn't sure if we're giving our, whether or not we're, if we're voting, I'm going to abstain as I was not in the meeting.
Thank you. So noted. And President Wolfson?
Yes.
Thank you. Item 7, action items at A, California Love temporary mural at Verdugo State Park. At 1 is a motion to note and file a report regarding the California Love temporary mural at Verdugo State Park.
Good afternoon, everyone. President Wolfson, members of the Commission, city staff. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present to you today. My name is Jennifer Fukutomi Jones, and I'm the Arts and Culture Administrator with the Library Arts and Culture Department. So thank you so much for having us here today. First, I'd like to provide an overview of the Arts and Culture Commission's Art Happens Anywhere program, and then also invite Aldo Chacon, who's the artist and creator of the California Love temporary mural design, to invite him to chat about the actual design and the production details of the mural. So first of all, the Art Happens Anywhere program was created due to COVID-19 and its current circumstances facing the arts and culture community. The Arts and Culture Commission directed staff to relaunch the Art Happens Anywhere program with the intention of tapping into artists' creativity during these unique times and also engaging in social conversation. So as you can see on the screen, these are some of the examples of projects that have launched so far through the Art Happens Anywhere program. And you can click on the link below if you'd like to have more information on the actual program. The application opened on May 1st, 2020, and since then, we've had several applications come in that are fantastic, and on June 18th, 2020, the Arts and Culture Commission looked at the first round of applications, and they approved 7 proposals, and one of the top proposals was Reflections, which by artist Ashton Phillips, which was brought here to the Parks Commission for approval on July 20th, and I'm happy to share that the exhibit is now up and live and running at Central Park, and we're very excited and thankful to the Parks Commission. And special thanks to Commissioner Michaels for his recommendation to have the Wi-Fi boosted at the Central Library. And thank you to ISD staff who was able to boost the Wi-Fi. So now we have free Wi-Fi accessible to anyone who's interested in participating in the exhibit. All you have to do is click on LibraryNet, and you'll be able to engage in the exhibit for free. So thank you for that recommendation. On July 16th, 2020, the Arts and Culture Commission approved 3 additional proposals from the second round of applications. And one of the top proposals was a temporary mural design at the Verdugo State Park. So right now I'd like to hand it over to Aldo Chacon, who's the artist and curator and creator of the design, who can chat more about the production details. But from this approval process, staff also met with park staff, library culture staff met with park staff, and we discussed the mural designs. Thank you for putting it on the screen. The mural design, specifically 2 questions that came to mind. The first question was wanting to really ensure the safety of the skaters who interacted and utilized the park. So some of the designs, the initial designs that Aldo had proposed were within the bowls of the skate park, and staff thought it was more prudent and safer to just paint on the rims of the skate park. So as you can see in this design, only the rims are painted, so it would utilize and make sure that the safety of the skaters is ensured. The second question that really was at top of staff's mind was the environmental impact of when the mural would actually be removed. So I'm going to hand it over to Aldo. Aldo has done a lot of research with different mural removal companies, and he can share more about the details and the environmental impacts of that. So Aldo?
Hi, thank you so much for having me in this meeting. I really appreciate everyone's time and all the effort that has been put through, from Jennifer and the Arts Commission from the Glendale. I created this idea because I wanted to see something different around the city. So my idea was to create a mural not on a wall but on a floor surface, and I believe like skate park was like a great place to do it, and creating like this vibrant, colorful like space where people could go and have some good time and feel different. Now that there's a lot of things that we cannot do. We're kind of restricted to being at home, so this could be a good space for people to go and feel good, or like kids are skating and young people, and just create a really nice space where people could have fun. In regards about the removal of the park, which is kind of like one of the biggest things we've been talking about, I've done a couple of research, reached out to a lot of other companies, and the removal process is not an easy one, but I mean, if we do it with a professional company that I've already contacted, they suggested doing it with a couple of instructions. So first they said that they could add like a chemical that we could put in the park before painting, and this chemical is like safe. The owner of the company told me that it's a chemical that also the Public Works and Parks team have used in the past. So that is good. And then all of the products are like safe for the environment. And I know that one of the biggest questions was what will happen to the water after that. So they also gave me a couple of different options about the disposal of the paint in the water, which they will do in a safe and environmentally friendly way. So I have more written information which I could share with Jennifer, and then she could maybe share with you if you want to see specific details. But I mean, I think there's a lot of companies out there that will do it, and that can do it in a very professional and safe way.
Correct. And although if you can just touch on the fact that the paints that you'll be using are all water-based, that it is a water-based water pressure removal process, and that all of the water that would be removed from the paint would be ultimately turned into gray water, which is disposable within and not environmentally impacted. Is that correct? Or can you share a little bit more about the process of the removal with the water?
Yeah, that is correct. The paint that we're going to use, it's a paint that we've already ran through the company. I mean, we've run a couple of different options, but we will use a water-based paint. So what they told me is that they will use a little generator that will suck up the water, and then it will dilute it down and then dispose of it as gray water. So they say that almost all the professional graffiti or paint removal companies have that. So they can do it. So they will vacuum all that water, and then get it transform it into a gray water. And then they say that with the pressure washing and the water and everything, it will be dissolved from the concrete. So there's not going to be any damage left on the surface. And all the products that they're going to use are going to be biodegradable, and they're EPA compliant. So there's no harmful chemicals involved.
So I think that is all for our presentation, but we welcome any questions that commissioners or staff may have in regards to the proposal.
I'm going to yield to my fellow commissioners, starting with Kate Eberly, Commissioner Eberly.
Yeah, I was just wondering why this is a temporary mural. Why is it a temporary mural? Through the Art Happens Anywhere program, all of the proposed artworks were temporary, with the ideal that the projects would launch before June 2021. So the initial part of the project, the goal of the project, was to be a temporary artwork. Is there an option to make it permanent if everyone loves it? Yeah, that's absolutely a possibility, depending on constituents' feedback. We could also go back with Aldo and see if this is an additional budget to the amendment, because as of right now, the proposed mural as it is only for a year, which includes an update and a kind of touch-up for the maintenance of the mural within a year. But if the commission and the constituents do like the mural, we can absolutely ask for a continuance of it. Okay, and one other thing, just to satisfy my curiosity, I'm really curious what the original design was with the bowls painted. Would you mind sharing that with us? I don't have that with me right now, but I can definitely send it to staff and have it available at the next meeting or upcoming. Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Kalfayan.
I'm just asking about the visibility. Who's going to be able to enjoy this? Only the skaters or the people visiting the park? And then the cost of removing it or painting it from the beginning, how is it arrangement? It is.
Sure, so I will leave it up to park staff to say who can enjoy the park. I know skaters obviously enjoy and utilize the park very often. But in regards to the actual budget for the proposal, the commission has approved a budget for Aldo to paint the mural, to all the materials the artist sees, so that is a pre-approved budget. There is going to be a secondary, most likely amended if this proposal is approved, that we would have to be pre-approved again by the Arts and Culture Commission to the cost of actually removing the mural. So as of right now, the only thing that's been approved is the actual painting of the mural and the artist fee for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, President Wolfson, members of the commission, basically it's gonna go on the skate park around the bowls, not in the bowls. So you're looking at the skaters and their family members that are visiting them, enjoying the artwork.
Limited visibility.
Yes.
Commissioner Michaels, do you have any questions?
Yes, I'm supportive of the concept. I really do like the idea of enhancing and making more of a visual interest around the skate park. I share staff's concerns as far as safety, durability, and the environmental impact. First off, as far as the painted surface, if this is a surface that was not considered safe for the bowls, is this going to be a slippery surface that is waterproof, or is this going to be more of a porous surface where durability is a question?
Aldo, would you like to take that question?
Sure. I think it was the safety. It was not regarding the paint. It was more about a concern of having an optical illusion on the balls instead of on the rim. So the paint is actually not going to affect the skaters, and we're also designing the paint and the mural. So everything kind of like you kind of see it very clearly where you're going, and it's not like really obtrusive to your eye. They can see where the balls begin and end. So that's why we decided to do it on the rim. Yeah.
That I understand and appreciate. For staff, with the drains that are at the bottom of the bowls, do these drain into the storm drain and what would be the Verdugo wash that is immediately nearby?
President Wolfson, members of the commission, Commissioner Michaels, I do believe that those are storm drains. We do keep them clean, have to clean them out on a regular basis in order to allow rainwater to drain down. So it is my understanding that they are storm drains. They do not connect to sewer lines.
I would have the question of if we are going to pressure wash and wash down, if the drains go to the wash, or if there's a collection point where that water could be collected safely, that would be a concern of mine.
So for what I heard from the companies, they will not they will have no water going into any of the drainage. They will have like a generator where they will vacuum everything that they're washing, and they're also not using that much water to clean it, because it's like a specialized pressure dusting kind of system where they don't have to use big amount of water to remove it. It's more about the pressure that they use, and then that water they vacuum it out so it doesn't go into any of the drainage or any system that connects to any other water or river or sewage.
I do have concerns just as far as the finish coat. I understand that if you put a pigment on the concrete, with it being water-based, that I would expect the pigment to be washed off. Is there a sealer on top of that pigment that would enhance the durability if this is going to ostensibly last for a year and go through rains without washing off?
I'm sure we can find a sealer that fits the needs of the removal of the mural. Just to have something that could be a bit more durable. But of course, like when you're painting with water-based paint, it's not going to be meant to last for more than a year.
With the concern I have about the sealer, yes, I want to make sure that it doesn't have an environmental impact. Additionally, the safety, if it is water resistant, that would pose a slipping hazard. Think of a pool deck. If the deck surface were waterproof and slippery, that would be a hazard, and I just have those concerns. I do trust staff to address those and take care of those as the project moves forward, but I would like more information on that when the project does begin.
Sure. We can get you information about the sealer for sure. I think safety is one of the most important things that we've been talking about. So yeah, I'm with you on all that.
If we can find a way to safely do this, I think this would be a good project. Thank you.
Commissioner Hotel, do you have any questions?
You're on mute. Okay.
Is she?
Yeah, I'm getting used to that. I want to say that I echo Commissioner Michael's concerns. You know, the Verdugo wash, I do have a great amount of concern about chemicals being emptied out there. I hear you saying that the company would collect that gray water or collect the pressurized water used in the process, and then it would be turned into gray water. What concerns me is that, from what I heard, that there isn't an actual company that's been secured for the removal along, or at least that's not part of the plan for the, for the installation, that the removal, the company that will be hired to do the removal will be handled later. So I have concerns about doing those as two separate entities when there are possible impacts. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Sure, I can address that. Thank you, Commissioner Patel. That is an excellent question. To be quite frank, the budget as it was approved was to include the removal, but in doing more research and the cost of the removal, it was much more expensive than we had anticipated. The reason why we have not reapproved the removal quite yet is because of timing. And as of today, the Parks Commission has not approved the proposal as of yet. So we wanted to make sure that there was approval first, and then we can make sure to include secure approval for an amendment to all those budgets to include a removal process.
Well, I will say thank you for explaining that to me. I would say I would be much more comfortable seeing this project move forward with the plans in place for removal, so that I understood what the process was, not only for the installation, but what the exact process will be for the removal as well. In so much as that we understand that company will adhere to best policy practices in keeping any ramifications from occurring to the environment there.
Okay. I have a couple of questions myself. First of all, what is the cost of the mural itself? Is that information available, or?
Sure. The approved cost for all those mural design, artist fee, and to have the maintenance for the mural for a year is $12,000. In the research that we've done, or that I should say Aldo has done in the past few weeks, the proposed estimated cost that he received was $3 per square foot. And he would be painting approximately 4,000 square feet, which would include the rims of the skate park. So that's about $12,000. That's his whole budget. So that was not estimated in the original proposal that Aldo had thought. So we would have to go back to the Arts and Culture Commission to receive approval for the removal of that fee.
Okay, I'm confused now. Is the 12,000 for the mural including the proposed removal, or is that just the mural and then the removal is $3 a I'm confused.
It would include the artist fee, the labor for him to do the mural, and a maintenance fee for up to a year.
So that's the 12,000. And then,
That's $12,000.
okay, and now you're getting bids of somehow for the removal, but we don't have a number for that yet because you haven't tied that down. Is that correct?
That's correct, and that removal cost would not come out of the Parks Commission budget. It would be coming out of the Arts and Culture Commission's Urban Art Program Fund.
Well, that's okay. You know, we still would be interested to know. But the removal is unspec. Do we have a range or any idea what it's going to cost yet?
I'll have that. I'll share that with Aldo. I'll have him respond because he's been doing the research on the cost of that. But from what I've been told, it was $3 per square foot, and if we're painting 4,000 square feet, it's about $12,000.
So-
Aldo, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. That's kind of like an average price that we have got from a couple of companies. It's $3 a square foot of painting surface. So from the calculations, I think the entire park is 15,000 square foot. But from the painting job, it's going to be between 4 and 5. So that's going to be around $12,000 to $15,000 of the removal only.
Oh, wow. So the removal costs as much or more than...
Than the painting, yes.
All right, I'm just, you know, okay. And then, is this the only one of the ACC projects that is going to be in a park area?
As I mentioned in the beginning, Parks Commission approved the Reflections exhibit, which is currently at Central Park. As of right now, that's the only other proposal that's from the Arts and Culture Commission's Art Happens Anywhere program.
Okay, because I thought in the materials it said 3 were approved, and I was kind of like, oh, what's going on here? Is there another one? But,
Out of the 3 from the second round, only 1 has been presented to be in a park, which is the Verdugo Skate Park mural. That was one of the 3 top proposals the commission received.
okay, that's what I thought. Then, it's going to be on the rim. We've been talking about safety. Do the skaters, I mean, I'm not very knowledgeable about skating, I have to admit. Do they go up on the rim with their boards, or what happens here?
I mean, the rims are usually more to skate and get some propulsion before you go into the bowls. So, yeah, the skaters can skate around the rim for sure, and they mostly walk, and then people hang out in the rims, like they're just there. The biggest attraction of these skate parks are the bowls, the inside of the bowls. But the rims are definitely used for skating, and we've been doing some research about paint because we want it to be adhesive to the surface, but also now with the removal, we want it to be adhesive but water-based. So that's where we are trying to find the best paint to do this job.
And you mentioned that's water-based. I share the concerns expressed already by other commissioners, Commissioner Michaels and Commissioner Potel, about 2 things. One is if it's water-based and it rains, it's supposed to be up for a year. We do have a rainy season. I wonder if this, you know, if we seal it with something that's not water-based, then we lose the advantage environmentally of a water-based product. If we don't seal it with something that's not water, then it's going to wash away in the rain. I understand that the removal company takes measures to keep the material that they're washing off out of the storm drain and out of the wash, but in the rains, I would think you can't exercise that kind of control, and it may get into the drain. So I have some concern about that. And you mentioned a chemical. I would love to know what the chemical is and what the method is that they're going to use to do this removal in an environmentally friendly manner. And finally, one more thing I was wondering about. You mentioned gray water, and then is this gray water available to be used for irrigation and things like that, because, we live in drought country and it's always an issue. We want to conserve water and recognize how precious it is. So I don't know if those are really questions or comments. Maybe you can address some of them.
I feel I can give you a more detailed list of the paint and the sealer that we want to use. I'm tied up because I really want the removal company to be involved in this process. So we're running everything by them because I think the removal, for what I heard from the parks team, the removal is the most important thing of this project. So we're trying to find a paint that's durable and that it's also removable. So I'm running a couple of different paint options through these companies to see which one's the one that they're going to be able to remove. And then the one that's also going to be more durable, or that's going to be there for the 6 months to a year. But using a watercolor based paint it's not like it's going to wash down through the drains. It sticks to the surface, and that's why you need a removing company to take it out, because it's not like it's going to rain and going to go out. But you're right. We need to get something that's going to be a bit more durable and removable.
Can I make a comment to that? You're dealing with a lot of impact. Skaters do a lot of impact in their skating. So I wonder. I hear what you're saying, that the paint isn't supposed to come off easily, but those surfaces are going to be receiving a lot of friction. So I do think that it would be prudent to think about what kind of. I do have concerns about the idea of this being temporary. I guess I just want to say that. I may feel more comfortable with something that was a more permanent situation, only in so much as we wouldn't have to worry about this idea of it disintegrating. The other concern that I have is, I'll expand on, I mentioned it before, but I'm going to expand on it a bit more. If we go ahead and permission without having to removal of a temporary mural, what concerns me greatly is that I'm approving something without really fully understanding or having the information of the process of removal, what the larger implications are. I hear what you're telling me, what your research is, but in my experience, being that I am involved in another organization for many years on environmental impact. When best case scenario you can hope for, but until you actually get into the nitty gritty of hiring and securing a contractor and knowing exactly what's involved, perhaps they'll be too expensive, and then we'll have to look at finding somebody less expensive, and maybe they will have the same kind of protocols. And then if we don't know what the cost is, if we haven't already secured that budget, if we have not already put it aside, we have already agreed on what kind of process we're all comfortable with the removal, I feel like we're making a decision only half, we're making half the decision, if that makes sense, of the process, without having everything secured ahead of time, and that could lead to other implications. Is what I want to say.
President Wolfson, members of the commission, since the commission is requesting some additional information in terms of maintenance and how they will maintain and clean off the paint after the temporary art display is completed, would you like us to table this until we have more information?
I would like that, and I want to just also say that, when it comes to something like this, we need maybe very specific information so we understand better, that we really know what's actually going to happen. And this is not, I don't mean this to criticize the artist or, anything else about it, just that, I think I feel uncomfortable with that uncertainty both from the financial and from the environmental perspective. And even if it's not our budget, it's still the public funds. And then the other thing too is, I think it was just mentioned about it being permanent. Would that be more comfortable? Would that be more? But then when you're talking about a permanent thing, then you're getting into a whole other realm of materials that are suitable for permanent. And there's always, with all of the skating and other activity, there's always the potential for those materials to chip away and get into the water. And, so again, like I say, I just think we need very specific information. So if we can table it, I don't know, I guess somebody else needs to move that.
My understanding from our commissioner, fellow commissioners, their concern, but all they're asking from us is to approve to put a temporary mural at the Verdugo Park. But it's not our project, it's their project. And the budget is their budget. We have to look at it that way. It's not our project, we're just allowing them to put the mural in there.
Okay. What do you think about that?
Like I mentioned earlier, President Wolfson, if there are many questions regarding the environmental aspect of cleaning the art itself, we would work with the library staff and the artist and bring back more information on how and what chemicals and what process they're going to be using cleaning the art.
I mean, I guess the question arises, we have to make a motion to note and file the report. That's our
That's what we're
action
asking.
on this,
Yes.
correct? But if we do have these reservations, why are we even, we have these reservations, why, we need to take those into account, I should think.
Iris, correct me if I'm wrong, we can change the motion asking, commission asking staff to come back with X, Y, and Z, correct?
Yes, that is correct. Yes, they can alter the motion that they make.
When was the installation scheduled to begin?
They're currently,
When was the installation of them?
there's no actual start date yet because nothing has been approved yet. So we cannot move forward with the timeline because nothing has been approved yet. The only thing that's been approved is the funding for for Aldo Chacon from the Arts and Culture Commission to do the project. Any other approvals have not been secured yet.
I have a few more questions.
I was going to say, I deferred to President Wilson, but yes, of course, you can ask more questions.
I'm curious about Mr. Cohen's experience doing these kind of murals. Have you ever done one in a skate park before?
I haven't done one in the skate park before. And of course, I guess the removal thing is kind of new because when we first thought about the project was supposed to be temporary issue or a bit longer term. And this was kind of like a curveball, but we're just trying to definitely work with your team and get you all the information you need to make it happen.
Okay. But skate park murals are incredibly common, right? Gabrielle, maybe you can speak to this, but I get the sense that a lot of skate parks have murals, and it's not a particularly risky endeavor to have one.
President Wolfson, members of the commission. Sorry.
Your mic.
This is Gabrielle. They are common in some of the parks. Some in Southern California do have murals. Some of them were originally installed and others ended up getting graffitied over and becoming different art installations in some of our local parks. And that was a concern that we brought up, was the maintenance of it, to make sure that it doesn't turn into something more along the lines of a skater mural versus an artist's mural that is installed. We did talk extensively with our staff over at the skate park, and as far as safety concerns, other than the optical illusion that was created in some of the original drawings where the art went from the deck down into the pools or into the bowls and then back up again, they didn't have concerns about necessarily skating on the material, on the paint. They felt like it was fine. So from that perspective, we don't have a lot of concerns. I know from my perspective, the concern was that if it's a temporary art installation and there isn't a plan for actual removal of it, that down the line we could have, it's going to fade, it's going to get chipped, and it will start looking less presentable, and so we need to have a plan in place in order to maintain the quality of the mural until it is removed, because otherwise it could become an eyesore down the road if it's not maintained or removed fully.
Also, did you want to comment on any of those things in regards to mural parks around the world or with locally, in regards to your maintenance plan within the year that you would be doing touch-ups and maintenance work on the mural?
Sure. I mean, I sent the parks team a couple of other examples on murals around the world, and I think they're very popular, and they're getting even more popular now. A lot of them are painted in the bowls, and a lot of them are painted fully, like the rims, the bowls, and everything. And they are very, very popular. And I don't know, kids and everyone just loves them because it's something very different and visual. And in regards to the maintenance, my proposal included a maintenance fee for a year, just to do some touch-ups and some, like if there's anything that would happen to the mural in that year, I would just go back and just touch it up, so it looks nice throughout the duration of this exhibit.
Can I ask a question about that? How many of those murals do you know were temporary? I mean, I've seen skate parks with artistic installations, and they're great, and I think it makes it more fun and bright and a park, and I love the idea of this. So I'm sorry I haven't expressed that earlier. The idea of this in concept is great. My concern is the fact that it's temporary, in so much as doing that kind of removal is concerning to me. If we don't know, or we haven't hired or put the funds aside for a particular company to do that removal, I just think that part of the process of approving it should also include the cost and process and full disclosure of what the removal process is from the specific company but of course, if we're not even including what, the cost for the removal in this plan, then how can you actually secure a company? So I feel like these are all these moving parts that haven't really been integrated into this plan yet. But the plan in and of itself of painting this skater park, I think, is a great one. I just feel like this is incomplete right now for me.
I think that most of the parks that I've seen around the world have been, more like permanent instead of temporary, and a lot of them have been done by skaters themselves without any budget. They just go with some spray cans and they just paint it. They don't do it properly, but it's just there and it stays there for whenever it gets ruined. And that's a lot of the proposals that I've seen, and a lot of them have been art commissions that are more like permanent murals. In terms of what you say about the cleaning company, what my plan was is just get them all the information, get the paint that I wanted to use originally, which was like a heavy shield, anti-chip, like anti-slipping, kind of like more for like traffic. Get it run by the removal company so they can give me a good, like a good idea if that was going to be able to be removed, and then get them to give me a good, a solid quote for the removal, and then bring it back for approval. And then in that quote, they can detail, if you want, I can ask them to detail me everything that they're going to do in terms of like the chemicals that they're going to use, the removal process, where that water is going to go. If you want all that information, you could come in the proposal with a quote already. It's just more about like, do we move forward with this without having an approval of the project?
And if I can just comment really quickly, Commissioner Patai, I completely understand and hear your concerns. In regards to it being a temporary mural, this is the first time ever that a type of project has come to Glendale. So we really wanted to make sure we were in control of it, that we knew all the understood the aspects of it before we decided to present it as a permanent mural. But I definitely hear and understand your concerns, and if allowed, staff would be happy to circle back with the artist and removal company to provide more details at an upcoming Parks Commission meeting.
I very much like that. Thank you.
There's one other thing I just wanted to say about this two things. One is, ultimately, I think the approval of the project is the city council is going to be, and the Arts Commission makes a recommendation, they make the decision as to whether it's done or not. The second thing that I wanted to say that occurred to me as I was listening to the answer about that is, there's paint applied all over the city in different things. We have striping on the roadways. There's all kinds of things going on that probably get washed away and removed. Maybe this is a fairly minor contributor to any, I'm just throwing that out there. But does anyone want to make a motion one way or the other? I'm not the person who does that, so.
Well, let me specifically ask for the approval. The motion that was put before us is to note and file. Is the ACC looking for a general approval of the project to go forward? Because I'm willing to entertain a motion to approve the concept and have the details come back to the Parks Commission to make sure safety, durability, environmental concerns are addressed. Or, as this is a note and file, I'm willing to go ahead and approve this with strong conditions that would address the concerns of the Commission.
Okay, I will second your recommendation.
Well, or
Sure, he made a motion.
asking of staff, what type of approval are you looking for at this point?
It's a note and file, if I'm not mistaken.
President Wolfson, members of the commission, at this time, the motion before you is a note and file, and at the commission's prerogative, you're allowed to give feedback, which will be incorporated as part of the motion. So from what I hear from the majority of the commissioners, it sounds like you do want the report to come back to you with some additional information. So if somebody wants to make a motion to note and file requesting that more information be provided based on the feedback that you provided, we'll go ahead and circle back with the Library Arts and Culture staff and the artist and see what those next steps are, whether they want to continue with the project and come back with more information or whatever else they might decide. So if that is okay, somebody can make a motion to note and file the report with your feedback, and we'll go ahead and proceed.
Thank you.
I will go ahead and make the motion to note and file the report with our feedback, with the expectation that this project comes back to the Commission to address the concerns that were raised.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioners Everly,
Yes.
Kaufman,
Yes.
Michaels,
Yes.
Patel,
Yes.
and President Wolfson.
Yes. Next
Okay,
item.
motion carries.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
At eight,
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for coming.
I have a question. What attracted them to put an art on the skate park? Why there and not somewhere else? What is it that it attracted the artists to go on the skate park?
President Wolfson, members of the commission, I wish Jennifer and Aldo were here, but basically they wanted to, Arts and Culture Commission wanted to put art somewhere in our park, any of our parks. And when they reached out to Aldo, all those proposal was to put a mural at the skate park, and that's where we are now.
There's no other space that.
There were a number of
more
artists.
visible or more helpful or more educating.
That, this is what the artist picked, and this was his proposal. I believe they had a number of proposals for the Art Happens Anywhere program, and this is what the Arts and Culture Commission picked.
President Wolfson, Commissioner Kafayan, we, Community Services and Parks, didn't see the entire proposal, so there might have been other artists that proposed some other artwork, but the Arts and Culture Commission selected this particular project. So there might have been others, but like Mr. Bulanikian said, I wish Jennifer was here to answer it specifically, but there may have been others. This is just the artwork that was selected by that commission.
Correct me if I'm wrong, were there 6 different art installations that they had chosen? Or 6 total? Is that right?
I thought it was 3.
I believe it was 3. 2 out of the 3 are in park facilities.
Great, okay.
Next item, please.
Next is item 8, reports information only. President Wolfson, members of the commission, staff is requesting taking item 8E out of order at this time. Item 8E is Parks Services Section Monthly Activity Report for August 2020.
Hey, well, good afternoon again, President Wilson, members of the commission. For the Park Services report for the month of August, we completed 671 orders, of which 635 were completed by groundskeepers and 35 by our irrigation repair crew. Total labor hours, 1,820. As we did last month, we wanted to show you what COVID's hours were related to, in relation to the work orders completed. 349 of those work orders were related to restroom maintenance, which is about 850 additional hours, and 119 work orders for caution taping and or logging swings, and 8 orders were for additional signs installations. If you have any specific questions about any of these work orders in the mix, be glad to answer them for you. But this would be our report for the month of August.
Thank you. Any questions?
I have a question. Since we know that you have to put up caution tape basically every day, and I know that the Nibley solution has been a little bit more sustainable, have you thought about doing that in other parks as well?
Thank you, Commissioner Eberly, for asking that question. Yes, Nibley has proven to be a little more sustainable when we put the orange construction taping, the fencing, I should say, around the playground. Yet it has been cut, and we've had to reattach it numerous times. And we actually stopped putting caution tape for the rest of the playground because it became conducive of staff hours and a waste of city resources, whether it be the caution taping and or staff time. And we have considered some of the more high active playgrounds that get similar level use as Nibley to be orange caution construction fencing as well. So that is in the works in identifying which facilities will also get that orange construction fencing. And as of right now, we have installed, that's what the additional signs were for, we installed additional signs letting the public know that the playground is closed due to COVID, asking them not to use the play areas. And additional facilities will likely be seeing the construction fencing as we have it over at Nibley, the orange construction fencing.
I would just like to thank you for all the incredible work that you're doing to try to keep our parks safe. I understand that there's been continual, what's the best word, disassembling of the caution tape and other, like you said, dispensing, and that you have had to continuously, reinstall these items. And obviously they're for the safety of the public, and your dedication to try to maintain that. I just want to thank you and the rest of your team.
Appreciate that. The credit does go to the team because they're the ones in the front lines having to deal with this, and the public in carrying it back down. It's demoralizing for staff. They've kept it up for several months, and after a few different iterations, this is the option we chose moving forward. And And I believe we're going to get to a point where it's no longer going to be an issue. So, praise the Lord. Thank you.
Yes, and one other comment I'd just like to say, I want to thank you for, I did have some follow-up questions earlier today in an email to find out more about your sanitation of the restrooms. And from what you described, if I have this right, you go in and clean the restrooms multiple times a day, is that right?
On a daily basis, we do in the morning, first as the staff come in, they do a thorough washing of all the restrooms, restocking as necessary, and throughout the day, 2 additional times. Somewhere right before noon, they'll visit them again and make sure, re-sanitize all the multiple touch hand areas, most touch areas, and then do the same thing again before they leave for the day, early afternoon. So it does get 3 times sanitization and restocking if necessary. It has been a little more challenging for staff as we still have the same crew who's taking on more responsibilities, but we felt it was essential during these, COVID times to make sure at least we're doing what we can to keep the public safe. And we do ask the public to be vigilant because, we cannot guarantee that, they still cannot find themselves in a situation where they're still being exposed to COVID. So we do our best and we ask the public to do their best as well.
Thank you for your diligence, hard work, and your care. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
I will also commend the adaptability of your crews and staff and the efforts that they are putting in. Looking at the comparison of the hours, the bulk of the work that is put in does seem to be COVID related. Are there areas that are being put off as far as maintenance, or are you able to keep up with all of the required maintenance as well?
Commissioner Michael, thank you for that question. As you may have noticed that we haven't been able to present you some of our lovely projects that we complete. What we've done is we've utilized the existing resources to cover the additional workload and be able to balance that out by taking some of the projects that may have been planned for these months and slowly shifting them out to later in the year. Those projects will still go on, and we have a number of projects planned at the beginning of this year. However, it's just based on the staff resources, we've had to adjust to the needs and the works. As far as regular maintenance, it's still ongoing. Our crews are working practically regular schedule with some minor shifts in who's checking in at which locations. So we're able to keep up with the regular maintenance as best as possible, and some items do have to obviously be impacted, and we've looked at some of the major projects we have planned to slowly shift them, forward to later weeks and months to be able to come up and keep up with the demand. So that's what we've had to do.
Thank you for your adaptability. It's appreciated.
Thank you.
You have any? Okay, I'm just going to say thank you also, and I think we have to recognize the city. We're going to hear about some other reports where there's revenue drops, and of course also the facilities are not being used as much. So maybe some of the other maintenance is not as critical at this time for that reason. So it's good to shift, and thank you for your adaptability. Next item, please.
Next is 8A, Civic Auditorium Annual Report for July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020.
Good afternoon, President Wolfson, members of the Commission. My name is Laura Dalian, and I am the supervisor of the Civic Auditorium, and I'm here to present the annual report for the Civic Auditorium. Next, please. The Civic Auditorium was built in 1937 and was the largest municipal auditorium in the West Coast at that time. Next, please. Today, it still stands as a symbol of tradition, old and new. It has maintained prominence throughout the years and continues to be rented to residents and private and public event promoters by offering combined nearly 30,000 square feet of rental space for a variety of events and unlimited setup opportunities. Next, please. Just a few facts about the auditorium. The Civic Auditorium used to be operated out of the Special Revenue Fund, Starting on July 1st, 2019, the city collapsed the special revenue fund into the general fund, and all auditorium operations after July 1st, 2019 are operated out of the general fund. The Civic Auditorium has been renovated 2 times, first in 1964 and again in 1997. The Historic Preservation Ordinance lists the Civic Auditorium as a historic building, therefore allows limited structural improvement. Within the limitations of the ordinance, the auditorium has had maintenance and exterior improvements done to upkeep its presentation. Next, please. The most recent refurbishment of the auditorium had been the restoration of the north entrance of the building. This renovation was done to restore the original architectural design by removing the pillars that were placed over the entrance door. Additional work done included the new roofing, air conditioning full maintenance, kitchen ceiling tiles replacement, kitchen floor painting, and other improvements. The offices had been improved as well. Also, the landscaping was completed, which significantly improved the exterior look of the building. Next, please. The Civic Auditorium has 2 adjacent parking areas, the garage structure and the Lot 31. The garage structure capacity is about 350 car spaces, and combined with the Lot 31, the Civic Auditorium can accommodate approximately 520 car parking at one time. The garage structure is used for the upper auditorium events, and the Lot 31 is used for the lower auditorium events. On the weekdays, both are used for the Glendale Community College student parking. There was a joint power agreement between Glendale Community College and the city. However, a new parking agreement went into effect at the start of 2019-2020 fiscal year, and the new agreement is between the Public Works Department and the city and the college for shared use of the parking lot. The Civic Auditorium may still collect parking money from the rentals on the weekends as part of the Civic Auditorium events use. The civic staff weekly notifies the college, the Public Works Department, and the Police Department about the event activities at the Civic Auditorium prior to use of these lots. The revenue collected from these events on the weekends will be kept by the Community Services and Parks Department and will be reflected as revenue at the Civic Auditorium. Next, please. The Civic Auditorium is the perfect location for meetings, trainings, workshops, festivals, public and private events, conventions, trade shows, educational and business seminars, gala dinners, fundraiser events, and also stage performances. The Civic Auditorium is also home to the Department Customer Service Office, the Special Event Office, and the Trails and Open Space Office. These offices handle the Community Services and Park Department special programs and class registrations, and the small parking that lot adjacent with the customer service entrance lot allows a convenient parking for their walking customers. Next, please. Internally, the Civic Auditorium opens up for various city meetings, employee trainings, personnel testing, city special programs, day camps, employee parties, and other city-sponsored events. The Civic Auditorium is also an emergency shelter during evacuations. Next, please. The Civic Auditorium provides a variety of services such as event support, event planning, logistics support, full kitchen access, audiovisual services, adjacent parkings, security services, Wi-Fi connection, staff supports to other city departments, citywide and city-sponsored events for deliveries. During this reported period, the Civic Auditorium staff supported 68 off-site city events and activities prior to March 2020 of COVID-19 closure. Each of these deliveries required equipment to be transported to and from events, with a Civic part-time staff handling all the equipment loading, unloading, setup, tear down, activities and full support of their event. Most deliveries include a variety of equipment, tables, chairs, canopies, portable mobiles, and riser stages, public address system in operation, podium, flags, pipe and bases, barricades, the ropes, banners, sandbags, and more. Next, please. The upper auditorium has 11,000 square feet area, includes hardwood floors, open layout, a full stage, high skylight ceilings, wide entrances, accommodates up to 1,100 people theater style and 800 people banquet style seating. Adjacent areas include the terrace room, north foyer, dressing rooms, full commercial kitchen, loading area. The garage structure is designated as the parking lot of the upper auditorium events. The terrace room is a sub-room, typically rented in conjunction with the upper auditorium events as a breakout room for meetings, training sessions, and food and beverage service. The north foyer is also used as an overflow area for trade shows for their setup, and it is typically a registration check-in area. Next, please. The upper auditorium is typically rented for private and public events, including trade shows, conventions, business and educational auctions, seminars, stage performances, social dinners, fundraising events, holiday parties, and sporting activities. It is also rented to citywide and city-sponsored events, including meetings, personnel testing, Glendale community college events, Glendale Unified School District events, election training, polling location, census training and operations, and other department events. With the occurrence of COVID-19 since March, there has been an increased demand to use the upper auditorium for human resources personnel testing. During this time, our setup is provided to abide with the protocol with the Centers of Business Control requirements for large gatherings. Next, please. The lower auditorium has 13,000 square feet and includes a middle sunken parquet floor area, storefront entrance and lobby area, accommodates up to 600 people, and holds a variety of events such as banquets, exhibits, receptions, festivals, dinner dances. Adjacent areas include the full commercial kitchen, the conference room, outside loading area, south courtyard, and the public parking would be in the lot 31 as a designated parking. The conference room is a sub-room similar to the terrace room and is rented also in conjunction with a lower auditorium. The lot 31 is also a source for rental upon availability. Currently, it is rented to Harley-Davidson motorcycle trainings on the weekends, annual Christmas tree lots annually in November, December, and some outdoor events and filming staging. The lot 31 currently is also used by the Glendale Police Department and Fire Department for their department trainings. Next, please. The lower auditorium has a sunken area used as a dance floor and is especially popular for holding weddings, birthday parties, dinner dances, fundraising events, and auctions. It is also used for city meetings, trainings, workshops, seminars, and luncheons. Also, the lower auditorium was a location for the summer day camp program and providing convenience drive-through, drop-off, and pick-up for the parents, and currently is one of the location sites for the Education Connection and Maple Stars after-school camps. Next, please. The following chart reflects the Civic Auditorium's activities of this fiscal year, breaking down the total of the event activities, deliveries, and cancellations after March 20th, 2020. Typically, the largest revenue source for the Civic Auditorium is from the facility rentals. This would include the rentals of the rooms along with the kitchen, dressing rooms, other equipment such as tables, chairs, pipe and draping, risers, piano, podium, sound system and operation, and the revenue from the parking. in 2019-20 fiscal year, there were originally scheduled 231 event days. However, only 177 took place prior to the COVID-19 closure. Out of the 177 events, only 100 were revenue-generating events. So the rest were citywide, city-sponsored events and activities without producing revenue. The Civic Auditorium staff delivered equipment to many events, majority of deliveries equipment being for citywide and department events. The cost of these deliveries are either charged directly to the city department who requested the delivery or absorbed into the expenditures of the Civic Auditorium. After March 20th, 54 event date cancellations occurred at the Civic Auditorium due to the lockdown. Next, please. Fiscal impact. Starting July 1, 2019, the city collapsed the special revenue fund into the general fund. All expenses and revenues are now combined into the general fund account. Revenues generated from events, programs, and rentals will help offset the cost of the operations of the Civic Auditorium. The 2019-20 expenditure figures numbers represent the combined special revenue and the general fund expenditures. During the reported period, the hourly salaries and benefits were down due to the event cancellations and related hourly savings due to the impact of COVID-19. If operations had to continue normally, it is expected that the hourly salaries would have actually increased to support the citywide events and internal deliveries. In the 2019-20 fiscal year, prior to COVID-19, the Civic Auditorium operated with 10 part-time employees and 1 full-time supervisor to support the civic activities. The sales, logistics, building operation, event planning, equipment setup, breakdown, deliveries, and citywide and city-sponsored events. Since March of 2020, the Civic Auditorium had limited operations, with only currently 3 part-time employees who maintain the auditorium to support the human resources personnel testing, the day camp, and the education program. For most of the time, the Civic Auditorium absorbs the hourly wages of the employees for this event and other internal deliveries. Also, the portion of the administrative staff salaries are charged to the Civic Auditorium and are reflected in those numbers. Over the last 9 years, the Civic Auditorium staff has strategically worked to decrease the yearly deficit by carefully monitoring staff hours and expenditures and attempting to increase revenue by bringing new events. The Civic Auditorium closed beginning on March 2020 to all revenue-producing rentals, and all rentals that were already paid for their events were refunded back to the customers. In addition, $53,000 in revenue for future rentals that were scheduled to happen next fiscal year, and money was collected during this fiscal year, were also refunded due to COVID-19, causing additional $53,000 revenue loss. Had normal operations continued without cancellation, the Civic Auditorium would have generated approximately $400,000 in revenue between rentals and the parking. The parking revenue included the funds collected from the Public Works Department, $57,607 transferred under the parking agreement with the Glendale Community College to the Community Services and Parks Department. These are the funds that have been usually paid to the Community Services and Parks every year. The new agreement does not include the payment from the college to the department. However, it is written that both Glendale Community College and the city will each keep 50% of the income collected revenue from the parking. And since the funds are collected by the Public Works Department already, they had committed to pay the Community Services and Parks amount annually to replace the funds that previously would be paid under joint power agreement. Parking revenue is showing a decrease also from the previous reporting period due to the reduction of the filming permits, who typically would rent the Lot 31 for their base camps. In the previous reporting periods, more filming companies expressed interest when renting the lot, and there was also more availability for the rental. In case of conflict with the Glendale Community College for their parking needs, typically being the first 2 weeks of each semester starting at the college, the college is unable to release the parking for the civic use. And therefore, the civic auditorium is unable to book the events without the parking. Additional, the Community Services and Park Department purchased a new dance floor this year to be used at special events such as summer concerts and other city events at Artsakh. This has also caused an increase in expenditures and maintenance and operations that shows in this chart. Next, please. The Civic Auditorium advertising methods are the Civic Auditorium website, the electronic marquee, the brochure, directories, word-of-mouth marketing, city website, marketing booths, special events, city newspaper, direct mail, online direct marketing, direct customer service contact, brand advertising, leisure guide, social media advertising. The Civic website is being updated with new information periodically with event information at the auditorium, and it allows additional exposure. The Civic brochure is produced physically and also available online. The physical brochure is given out at the marketing booths at various events. Additionally, department staff would go to the citywide special events and pass out the brochures and business cards to prospective clients. The staff also evaluates paid advertising opportunities and put out ads in private directories, which recently we've used Oakmont Country Club event planning directory. The staff also connects with other nearby event venues, industry influencers, and the leaders for their input for own advancement. The staff also regularly reaches out to other event promoters and other new opportunities and incentives by offering renting the Civic Auditorium event space, by sharing them with customer testimonials and reviews, and also gives big part to word-of-mouth marketing, as 90% is trusting brand recommendations to friends and experiences at the Civic Auditorium and the Civic Auditorium staff services. Next, please. The digital marquee is another source of advertising for the promotion. It allows for the public to stay aware of upcoming events at the Civic Auditorium, and it is also used for citywide announcements and city events outside of the Civic Auditorium. Next, please. The next several slides are pictures taken of various recent events held at the Civic Auditorium. The one on the left is a photo from a signatory presentation. The one on the right is from a trade show. Next, please. This is a picture of a business seminar. Next, please. The photo on the left is a private New Year's Eve celebration setup. and the one on the right is from a private birthday party. The photo is, this one is from a wine and food tasting event that became very popular at the Civic Auditorium. And after this one, we had already scheduled several tasting and food expo events that were going to be held at the Civic Auditorium, but unfortunately they're canceled at this point. This one from an expo convention. This is an outside private event in the lot 31. This is a photo from the Lower Auditorium city-sponsored meeting. The setup. Next, please. And this one also from a city-sponsored workshop seminar. This concludes my presentation. Thank you. If you open to questions.
Are there any questions from our commissioners, Eberly?
Yeah, I was just thinking about Lot 31 and what other, I know that was used for one of the movies, drive-in movies. Does that fall under revenue? Well, if there were to be charges associated with that, would that fall under revenue for the Civic Auditorium? I can't remember whether there was.
Yeah, thank you for the question. If the Civic Auditorium had rented the lot for the event, yes, the revenues collected will be reflected in the Civic Auditorium revenues.
It was a free event, though, when we did it already?
Commissioner Eberly, President Wilson, Commissioner Eberly, the movie that you're talking about, if it was the one that was sponsored by the department, it was a city-sponsored event, and so there was no revenue generated for that as it relates to the Civic. We didn't charge ourselves for the movie.
Okay, I was just wondering if you're looking at any other things that you can do outside in that lot. I mean, I know that, restaurants are suffering and people need outdoor space to eat and things like that. Have you looked at all at sort of alternative activities to be out there?
I'm very sorry, Commissioner. Your voice is interrupting, so I was not able to hear well.
I'm sorry, I was just wondering if you are looking into other events that you can host in the outdoor lot, since right now there's not a lot you can do inside. When it comes to that
Currently, the lot 31 is heavily being used. There are lots of requests by the police department, fire department for their trainings. On the weekends, Harley Davidson is still continuing, not regularly, when they have their own arrangements. They have the contracts and they're continuing their trainings. Currently, also, the lot 31 is being used as a drive-through drop-off and pick-up location for the parents who come to their kids attend the educational program that is being held in the lot 30 in the Lower Auditorium. So we're trying to keep the lot 31 as safe and available for their drive-through. If opportunity comes up and we have the availability and there is no conflict with these events, we definitely look forward to renting and making more revenues. We were able to finalize for this year the Christmas tree lot reservation already and received all the payments, which was out of any conflict and allowed us to finalize that booking. And yes, answering to your question, if opportunities come up and we're looking to further more events, more opportunities, and there's no conflict with this event and with the college parking, then definitely we would like to make more revenue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Michaels, do you have any questions?
I have no questions. I'm on the board of one of the organizations that had to cancel an event there at the Civic. I'm looking forward to a time when we can hold those events again and move forward. I appreciate the concerns with the budget, but do hope that maintenance and interior improvements continue to happen to increase the desirability of the Civic as a rental destination.
Thank you, Commissioner. We looked forward to hosting you and welcoming you for the poster contest, and I know that's the one you're talking about. And we're all getting ready and excited, and just to provide you the best service. Unfortunately, it did not happen, as you know, and maybe next year we'll do our best to provide the best service.
We're looking forward to the poster contest, the award ceremony, trying to figure that out, and then figuring out some of the technical details of that ceremony. So I appreciate your efforts and look forward to having the Civic continue to improve the trend of improving its rental.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Hotel, do you have any questions?
I don't. It's a wonderful landmark, and you know, it's a difficult time in so many ways, and so many people. And you know, this department does such a wonderful job of great events for the city, and unfortunately, right now,
Commissioner Patel, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but you're cutting off. Would you mind repeating from the beginning, because we couldn't really make out what you were saying? I apologize.
Yes, of course. I'll try to make it brief. I just want to say I think that it's a difficult time where we can't really enjoy some of the beautiful aspects of our city, including the Civic Auditorium. I want to echo Commissioner Michael's comments about being able to upkeep the building so that when we are in better times, it will be utilized in the way it should be. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I just want to say, first of all, thank you for, keeping things going as much as you could at this time. It seems like, if I understand things correctly, and I hate to say this because obviously financially it's a very difficult time, but I think we should be due for some renovation fairly soon, within the next 5 to 10 years. So we don't want to lose these wonderful historic resources, and we want to make sure that we are taking really good care of it. The second thing I wanted to ask, this is actually more of a question, is did the parking agreement, it must have expired, we're into a new fiscal year. Did we have a new agreement with the college, and are they actually using the parking? Because are they having in-person classes? And it just seems like everything's kind of in abeyance. Is that correct?
Laura, I'll take it.
Hello?
This is Gabrielle.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. President Wolfson, members of the commission. The old Joint Powers Authority or Joint Powers Agreement did expire. And so the Public Works Department actually entered into a new agreement with the Glendale Community College starting at the beginning of this fiscal year, so in July of 2019. There is not a lot of revenue coming in from the college or from the public parking in these lots, unfortunately, due to COVID. The college is not in person, and so since March of 2020, there has not been very much other than the little bit of use that the Civic Auditorium is getting from it, which under the new agreement, we do get to keep that revenue. So that would be a little bit from the Harley-Davidson trainings, which they're physically distant by nature because they're on a motorcycle alone. So we've been allowed to permit those. And then we have the Christmas tree lot coming up, which is exciting because that's, I think it's going to be a good thing for the community as well as for the operation of the Civic to have that regular income coming in to help cover some of the expenses, offset some of the expenses of utilities and maintenance on the facility so that it doesn't fall apart while we're not using it as much.
Right, because I have some concerns about, just these revenue shortfalls. This is just rather disastrous. And I know this is not our thing, I just want to mention it in passing, that I hope that people above our pay grade here on the Parks and Recreation Commission are trying to think of ways to ameliorate the situation. So, thank you. With that, I think we should move on to our next item.
Next item is 8B, Pacific Community Center Annual Report, Fiscal Year 2019-2020.
Good afternoon, President Wilson, members of the commission. My name is Salah Garabedian, Senior Community Services Supervisor with the Parks Department, responsible for all of the department's community centers, but specifically Pacific Community Center as well.
Mike?
Okay, are we better now? There we go. Would you like me to repeat or we should move on?
Cool.
Let's see if the clicker works. No, maybe. All right. Teresa, I think it's on your computer. If you could move it on to the next slide. So I'll be presenting the Pacific Community Center annual report. And Pacific Community Center is basically located at 501 South Pacific Avenue. It's between Vine and Riverdale, between Pacific and Kenilworth, and it's an entire block of recreation and educational facility dedicated to Glendale Unified School District, the Parks Department, Library Arts and Cultural Department. And originally it started off as 3 different entities at the facility, and the newest addition to that complex to the block is Pacific Community Pool, which opened its doors in 2011. The community center, non-COVID times, is typically open Monday through Thursday from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., Fridays and Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., and it is technically closed to the public on Sundays. However, we do have staff working throughout the day on Sunday due to facility reservations, whether it's indoor or outdoor. Next slide, please. The services we provide at the facility include detailed event planning. This is when a customer rents the facility. Nobody knows our home better than we do, so we guide the customers as to what would work for their type of event, depending on the number of people, the entrance, the exit, where to set up check-in tables, etc. We provide event layout, logistics planning, what needs to be moved in, what needs to be brought from outside, what we could provide as a facility. Staff is trained on the use of various audio-visual equipment, whether it's the sound system or the mobile recreation packages, TV, whatever it may be. The facility has the ability to do special event planning as well. Our staff, our full-time staff, our hourly staff are really experienced with special event planning and organizing and implementation, which is why the facility is host to a couple of center-based programs and special events. In addition to that, we offer tap card reloading and Beeline Pass sales. It's an elderly nutrition program site as well. And then we'll cover some other programs that take place out of this facility. The facility has some center-based programs. Center-based programs include Tot Time. Tot Time is basically for kids up to 5 years old. Parents or caretakers could bring their children into the gym where we set up some toys and some carpets, and the kids could interact, climb over stuff on padded surfaces, and basically socialize. The parents and caretakers could socialize amongst themselves while keeping an eye out on the child in the program. We also offer a couple of drop-in programs, which include basketball for youth and adults, badminton, pickleball, soccer, exercise classes, and line dancing. Drop-in recreation room, which is typically billiards and table tennis. Lifelong learning classes include a youth basketball class and an adult Aikido class. The facility also offers our day camp program, our seasonal day camp program. We're the only community center that offers a day camp during all 4 seasons. So summer, followed by Thanksgiving break, followed by winter, and then spring. And we have 3 different day camps that operate, and the 3 is based on age. So we've got Kinder Camp, Cool Days Camp, and Traveling Teens. Kinder is for 4 to 5-year-olds. Cool Days is for 6 to 12, and then Traveling Teens is for 12 to 14. And then the facility also offers Parents Night Out and Parents Day Out. This is a 1-day, 6-hour day camp type of a thing. Parents could drop off the children, our staff will supervise it, and then the parents will come later in the day and pick it up. If it's a night out event, drop off is at 6 p.m. or later, pick up by midnight. And if it's a day out event, it's drop off at 10 a.m. or later and pick up by 4 p.m. Next slide, please. Here's some pictures of our center-based programs. Top left, you'll see our senior exercise class, which takes place 3 times a week. Top right, you'll see our line dancing class, some pictures of our seniors playing billiards, and a setup before the kids come in during tot time, because all those toys are all over the gym by the time the kids leave. But that's the point. Next slide, please. Here you see our Aikido class, some pictures from our summer camps and our parents' night out, day out activities. You see the kids watching a movie, and then when the opportunities present themselves, we'll bring in other resources such as the Library Arts and Culture Department, who had a grant for robots, and they were teaching the kids how to program robots, assemble the robots. So the kids participated in that activity, assembling the robots and then racing them amongst each other. Most of the drop-in programs require an activity card. So here are our activity card sales and renewals. I gave you guys this year a 5-year comparison, and clearly over the course of the last 5 years, you see that our numbers have been decreasing. Part of that is because there's a change in generation, there's a shift in the generation and what they're interested in. So in the past, where a senior exercise class based at a facility was popular, a younger generation of retiring seniors may have the ability to travel to a gym instead and prefer that avenue as opposed to coming to a community center. Maybe for time, maybe for convenience, maybe for the ability to maintain their existing membership. Our drop-in basketball program for youth and adults is still active. It's really popular, especially on Thursday nights, with the exception of any kind of NBA playoffs or any kind of major sporting event that attracts them away. And then we have billiards, which was really on a decline as well, and that's primarily seniors ages 75 plus that were coming and playing. It was an opportunity for them to socialize, but due to recent protocols, safer at home orders, they're not coming either. What I did want to highlight that between March 1, 2020 and June 30, 2020, there was set to be 159 passes that were going to expire. So at least 159 customers who had an existing pass could have renewed those passes. Had it not been for the closures, they might have come back to the facility, checked in, and we would have said, your pass is expired, it's time to renew. But due to the closures, there's 159 customers that we know didn't duplicate. And I could come back to commission if you guys want to pull up the additional numbers since July 1 or prior to March 13, let's say, on all the other passes that expired. But during closures, we know that an audience of 159 pass holders were omitted and prevented from renewing their cards at a minimum. Next slide, please. So like I said, there's other programs that operate out of Pacific Community Center. So Pacific Community Center is home to our Youth and Family Services section, which oversees our STAR program, which is in collaboration with Glendale Police Department. STAR is students training as role models. It's an elderly nutrition program site where we serve seniors a hot lunch, typically a hot lunch 3 times a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And it's also home for our One Glendale after school youth sports program. It's basically where the staff are based. All the games take place at Pacific Community Center, with the exception of 1 or 2 seasons where we use Maple Park as well. But the championship games are all held at Pacific Community Center as well. So Youth and Family Services also provides youth case management out of the facility, in addition to Teen Night Out and Teen Night Out workshops. We collaborate with a couple of agencies, primarily Glendale Adventist Hospital and Glendale Community College. With Glendale Adventist Hospital, they come and do a free senior Zumba class on Thursday mornings, and that was really popular because A, it was free, B, the participants really enjoyed the instructor, And they also do a healthy cooking class. So sometimes before Zumba or immediately after, they'll do a little cooking demonstration in the gym and give the participants an idea. We've tried bringing them during talk time as well, and that was successful in the past. And it's basically their availability. They say we could come once or twice a week. When could we come? And we just provide them the space and accommodate. Glendale Community College uses our facility for their lifelong learning classes. Currently, of course, prior to closures, we had an ESL class that was taking place at the facility and a contemporary world issues class that would meet at the facility. We did have an improv class that was canceled recently. That's because of instructor availability. She actually canceled at the turn of the year, so it was not COVID related. Go to the next slide. Here you see a picture of our collaborations. You see our Zumba class by Glendale Adventist. You see an ESL class on the top right, upstairs in the Sycamore room, and then our Contemporary World Issues class downstairs in the Redbud room. And to kind of wrap up center-based programs and events before we get into the facility side, I wanted to discuss the 2019-20 special events. As you could see, summer concerts in the park, our staff assists with that. So if you see an asterisk, it's community center staff assisting with the event. They're not taking full leadership of the implementation. Glendale Cruise Night, same thing. We assist the staff, the full-time staff, hourly staff. We either provide additional equipment, do deliveries, provide programming on the south end of the street, whatever the case may be. Our staff organize the all-day Camp Let's Play Day, National Night Out, which takes place at the facility. It's the largest National Night Out event in the city of Glendale. We support Open Arts and Music Festival, Glendale Tech Week, National Charities League Annual Rummage Sale takes place at the facility. Glendale Police Department Open House takes place in front of police headquarters, but our staff go and provide support for that event. Fall Festival, One Glendale ASYSP Championship Days, Glendale Health Festival, which is a 3-day event, pretty large event. We assist with the tree lighting, and then One Glendale's volleyball season and basketball season championship days. And that brings us to March. So what we did cancel after March, I wanted to note, was the One Glendale soccer season championship day. Cesar Chavez annual commemorative event was canceled, as well as our spring extravaganza. Those were the 3 special events that kick off our summer season at the facility, starting with Chavez. So if we go to the next slide, you can see some of the pictures from the events. You see a basketball season championship game, what would have been spring extravaganza this year that we had to cancel. Next, you'll see our Cesar Chavez event in Chavez Plaza, and then a picture from the Fall Festival. And I'd like to point out that 2020 Fall Festival will also not be taking place this year. We've already gone ahead and canceled that event. So moving to facilities itself, we have 5 rooms indoors that we rent out: the conference room, Sycamore room, Oak room, Redbud room, and Arts and Science room. While the conference room, Sycamore, and Oak room are upstairs, their carpeted floors are ideal spaces for meetings or having some sort of activity that involves eating around the table. The Redbud room and Arts and Science room are downstairs, and they're better for an art project, an arts and crafts project, or some sort of a birthday activity where we're expecting high traffic and high amount of food or whatever going on because of the type of flooring we have downstairs. The facility also has 2 gymnasiums, one of which is under the joint use agreement with Glendale Unified School District, and that basically allows for 3 shared spaces to be used by the school district during the day, and allows Parks Department to rent, reserve, and use in the afternoon, evenings, and on the weekends. So gymnasium, there's 2 A's of the city side, which is exclusive to city use unless it's available for rent. And then Gymnasium B, we share with Edison Elementary. They do whatever they want between Monday and Friday until 4. Afterwards, after 4 o'clock and through the weekend, the community center staff reserve. Computer lab is another one of those shared spaces where we have 35 computers in that computer lab. Edison Elementary uses that as their primary computer lab, and we use it when we need to for our programming. The recreation room, which also has the billiards table and ping pong tables, and then there's a small kitchenette available at the facility that we rent out when somebody wants to prepare food on site. Next slide, please. So here's some pictures of the second floor. Here you see the Sycamore Room, our conference room, the Oak Room, which is basically home to STAR and our elderly nutrition program, and our terrace. Since we're talking second floor, we throw in the picture of the terrace. The terrace holds about 24 people. Next slide. Downstairs, you could see the ground floor recreation room, table tennis table, the arts and science room, which is the hub for our day camp program, and the Redbud room, which is home for Teen Night Out. When Teen Night Out has workshops, we usually set them up in the Redbud room with their projector and screen, and then when the kids are allowed their opportunity for free play, they go into the recreation room to play billiards or play video games, whatever the case may be. Here's a picture of the gymnasium. So the gymnasium is split into by a retractable wall. So when the wall is open up, it's rather large space, and then when the wall is closed, I gave you guys the picture of what we typically see when we walk in and out. Now, ideally, that wall is closed Monday through Friday during hours of operation for the school. As a safety measure for the school, we make sure all the doors are locked and we prevent anybody from accessing the school side. And then when we need to, when the event calls for it, we will open that wall up. The gym features 2 full-size basketball courts, I want to add. We currently have 8 badminton courts drawn in, and we can play volleyball should the wall be opened up. But we have to play volleyball going across the wall, so the wall needs to be open to play volleyball. Outdoor facilities include the multi-purpose field, which is an artificial turf field, 2 picnic shelters, each one accommodates 50 people, a Little League baseball field, a multi-use court where lines are drawn for basketball and pickleball, a playground with splash pad, and of course the terrace on the upstairs level. Here's a picture of our picnic shelters. Like I mentioned, 50 people per side per shelter. Each picnic shelter has a sink and a barbecue and a counter space. Currently, all of these are closed, and there's orange construction fencing surrounding the picnic shelters, so to prevent anybody from coming and using the shelters as they are closed, given the current protocols. Moving on to the next slide, here's a picture of our Little League field. Vaquero Little League calls this field home. When Little League is not in season for spring, summer baseball, starting fall, we reserve that field out for soccer use as well, because there is an additional demand for soccer play. And then typically around November, we shut down the field through January for it to be to get its rest, to get seeded and touched up. Here's a picture of our multi-purpose field. This field was renovated in 2013. Before we put the artificial turf, it was basically a giant dust ball. No matter what we did, we couldn't keep the grass green or growing on that field. Additionally, before we did some of the retaining wall, if you see in the picture on the right-hand side, we would notice that whoever was using the field would find little rocks on the little slope side and then throw it into the middle of the field. So we used to get some complaints, why are there rocks in the middle of the field? But ever since it's been renovated, that field, outside of COVID, would be reserved Monday through Friday from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m., Saturdays from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., and Sundays pretty much all day with the exception of 2 hours total. With COVID, it's still getting a lot of usage Monday through Friday. It is booked until 9:30 p.m. at night. Saturdays, it has a good amount of bookings. Sundays, a little less. That's just because nobody's asking for it, or the times that people ask for it, the field has already been booked. So I wanted to give you guys a comparison of our indoor reservations from the previous fiscal year and the one before that, I guess, 2018-19 in comparison to 2019-20. And as you could tell, the number of reservations in total has gone down. And we know that 182 indoor reservations were canceled due to COVID-19. Now, what I mean by reservation isn't just a paying permit. I'm also talking about our reservations that we allocate the space for our programming as well. So, for example, if Cityside Gym A was reserved for our adult drop-in basketball program on Mondays and Thursdays so that we could provide the check-in process, that reservation was canceled and removed from the system. So if you go into that system now, there should be blanks across the board showing maximum availability. So including all of those types of cancellations, we had 182 indoor cancellations that took place from March 13 onward. Had it not been for the cancellations, we would have been at a total number of 2238 as opposed to 2056, giving us 15 reservations away from eclipsing last year's number. Now, in terms of reservations, where we could see a potential increase is we could have had up to 15 reservations just to eclipse last year's number by people having a birthday party, reserving the Redbud room, or having another meeting in the Sycamore room, whatever the case may be. It's these customers that we eventually turned away, or they never called us given the protocols, and that's how we fell short, so to speak. And here's a pie graph of our reservations. As you could see, 621 is Gym A, and Gym B is our next most reserved facility. And then you could just see how the rooms are reserved. So Gym A being most popular, Sycamore room A and B being our most popular meeting rooms, and then you could move on from there. Now the conference room with its 56 reservations, I could almost guarantee you 99% of those reservations is us making those reservations, because the conference room is ideal for having staff interviews, whether it's for rec leaders or facility attendants. So we reserve our own conference room. The setup is ideal. There's a lobby, whatever the case may be. So those aren't paying customers necessarily. Now let's go to outdoor reservations. Here you could see that in total, we had 1,530 reservations for 2019-2020 in comparison to 1865. 337 reservations were canceled due to COVID from March 13th through June 30th. Had we not canceled those reservations, whatever types of reservations they are, we would have already surpassed last year's numbers by 2. This, of course, excluding any new reservations we would have made prior to the cancellations coming. And where we see an opportunity where we could have grown or increased our numbers would have been the picnic shelters. Summertime birthdays would have been coming around. People wanted a shaded area to celebrate a birthday. Picnic shelter wanted to provide that space. Multi-use turf field, which is our soccer field, at 923, even with the cancellations, it was pretty much at capacity at the time. So there was no room to increase reservations there. And the multi-use court is basically our outdoor basketball court / pickleball court. And the number of reservations have increased because we programmed and dedicated time for pickleball, where we could scan and check in customers, and there wasn't going to be much additional rental from them. Now the Edison Amphitheater, the reason why those numbers are low is because it's our reservation. It's not open to the public, and we either cancel an event or the event didn't come back. So it's just for us to see what's being used around the facility, so that if there's a major event, we don't want something conflicting and allocating every single space given and put that additional strain on the facility in terms of staffing, parking, community, and everything else along those lines. And the pie graph shows what's popular at Pacific in terms of outdoor use. It's the turf field, it's the soccer field, followed by the baseball field and the multi-use court. Now let's get into financials. In 2018-19, Pacific's financials were split across the special revenue account and the general fund. In 2019-2020, we collapsed those into the general fund. So the way I've broken this chart down is I'm showing you everything that used to be its own account that is collapsed into one account. So if while you're looking at the screen, Pacific Community Center operations used to be its own entity, rentals was under the special revenue fund, and center-based programs was a program under community center operations. All three have combined now into one account, which is Pacific Community Center operations for 2019-2020. Now, what's noticeable is the loss in revenue, let's say, from what was budgeted for 2019-2020 and what was collected in 2018-2019. 179,000 as opposed to 256,000. And staff have calculated that $65,907 were either credited or refunded to customers due to these cancellations that we've been talking about. And that's both indoor and outdoor cancellations, 519 reservations in total. Now, what that number doesn't include is the possibility for an existing customer to say, I need to add tables and chairs to my rental, which would have brought in more money, or I need to add an hour or two because I need to set up or clean up more. So, or on the flip side, remove tables and chairs, or remove or reduce their amount of reservations. So at the time of the closure, $65,907 was not captured. Had that been in place, you know, we're looking at $245,000, and we're close to what we had budgeted that we were gonna make. Now, if you could go back, Teresa, one more time. Thank you. On the salaries and benefits, here you're gonna see savings. Due to the closures, we didn't schedule our hourly employees. Because of closures, there was no reason for them to come into work. We're not opening the building to any customer or any facility reserver. So in Pacific Community Center operations, approximately $81,000 of hourly wages and benefits was saved because of the closures. So when you look at it in totality on the next slide, you'll see how much impact that puts. Pacific Community Center's day camp program is its own standalone program still, even with the general fund, the special revenue fund collapsed to the general fund across the 2 fiscal years. The day camp operation we kept as its separate entity for tracking purposes, and you could see that we had budgeted $115,000 in revenue and only collected $41,912. Now, what I wanted to point out is, had it not been for the COVID cancellations, we should have had a full 9-week summer camp program. Summer camp registration typically takes place at the end of April, beginning of May, depending on the way the weekends work out. What you're not seeing here is capturing that summer camp reservation fees. The only thing we captured was the 2020 summer at post July 6 registration fees for our Maple Stars camp at Pacific Community Center. So our numbers are drastically lower. In addition to that, $10,809 was given back to the community, to our customers, by way of refunds and cancellations because of our spring camp cancellation. So automatically, I could tell you $41,912 plus the $10,809 plus what we didn't collect, we should have been hitting our projected revenue again. For the contract class program, this is 2 parts. Our revenue is down because of the closures, but our revenue is more reflective of what we see in past fiscal years. Our contract class budget allows for us to find another new instructor that we could bring on board and provide more classes to our participants at our facility. Every year we program with that hope, but never identify a class that works in terms of timing or availability or whatever the case may be of the facility, so we always have that savings. So in terms of revenue, you're not gonna see that number too much higher if we don't have that additional contract class instructor. Nonetheless, that revenue isn't as high as it should be because of the closures. And salaries and benefits are significantly lower than what was budgeted because all of those hourly instructors were all told to stay home. It wasn't until the end of June, July that we started bringing all of those hourly instructors back and offering the opportunity for them to get paid to do virtual classes from home. So combined expenditures, whereas we had budgeted to spend $834,000 across all of these accounts, currently 3 accounts, used to be 5, we spent $662,347 for a net savings of $172,445. Or sorry, the number escapes me, but
70,000.
so, Teresa, if we could move on to the next slide. That's pretty much the conclusion of my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions should the commissioners have it.
Are there any questions from Commissioner?
Yes, I was wondering if, now that the weather is moderating, are you seeing opportunities to restart classes outside? Maybe some of the senior activities?
Commissioner Wilson, President Wilson, Commissioner Everly, a similar request came in just last week, where a neighboring city in a different county was providing outdoor exercise classes for seniors, drawing 10-foot circles, 10-foot diameter circles, and allowing them for them to come back in person. We have not opened that opportunity as of now. I did ask that question, and we are just basically researching if it's feasible or not. Our intent with the virtual classes is so that we can provide the same type of programming and maintain the social distancing and prevent anybody from congregating. And those classes might create the opportunity for congregation in our parks. Additionally, when it comes to Pacific Community Center or any of our community centers for that matter, outdoor space is limited or it's not at all under the shade. So while we're talking about this opportunity, we were also activating cooling centers given the heat wave, and putting these seniors out on the baseball field with no shade was a little contradiction as well, so I didn't feel comfortable. So we will research the trends, what's going on in neighboring cities and see what the demand is like. But for now, virtual programming has been our preferred choice.
Thank you. My other question, or I guess it's more of a comment, is I know you said that the senior activity card numbers were going down, and I understand that being a concern, particularly as we're looking at budget crunches coming up. But I also I think that even if there are 4 people who play billiards regularly together, that we should support them in those social connections, particularly now. So I would like to, look carefully at alternatives before we start closing down programs, especially senior programs, even if we have fewer people participating.
President Wilson, Commissioner Eberly, it's also good to note that the report that SEVAG is providing is specific to Pacific Community Center, but the activity cards are good everywhere. So there could have been a senior that may have gone to another community center to purchase their activity card. So we would have to look at the numbers as a whole within the entire department to know if the decrease was at Pacific, could there have been an increase at SPAR or ARC that might lead us to believe that that specific year, that senior happened to purchase their activity card from a different location. So just wanted to note that as well.
Thank you. That's a really helpful point. At some point, will we see the numbers for all of them aggregated?
Generally, I believe the reports have it specific to the community centers, but we're happy to bring back a report with all of them if that's helpful.
That would be great. Thank you.
Commissioner Cole. Okay. Commissioner Michaels, any questions from you?
Just to follow up, I know with all of the changes, the idea of coming back with some type of aggregated information as far as the activity cards, the use, I think that would be very useful rather than having broken out by the individual facility.
Noted.
Commissioner Patel?
Yeah, I'm wondering, are you all still, look, I think it's wonderful you have all these classes for the community. I just think it's fantastic. I'm just wondering, is there a way to, I know some of the classes you were able to convert into virtual and others weren't as feasible, didn't translate necessarily as well to virtual. Are you still looking for ways to expand on your virtual offerings?
Commissioner Patel, President Wilson, members of the commission, we are always looking to expand if there is opportunity. I know when we had the initial closures, we had reached out to the instructors who provide our classes, and there was hesitation, and some of the instructors are not as tech savvy, and so they weren't comfortable in providing the virtual classes. And so converting our existing classes to virtual was a bit of a challenge at first, until staff had to go back a month and a half later and ask them and tell them that we would be helping them, which we had offered initially. And I think with the closures taking as long as they had, maybe some of the instructors did change their mind and decided, okay, well, we can try this out. And so we were able to get at least 4 of the exercise classes to be virtual, as it's specific to seniors. So we are always looking for those opportunities, and if there are new instructors that might be willing to do things virtually, staff is happy to look into it and see if we're able to bring it bring them on board if they're new instructors or existing instructors that might be interested to go back. So staff is always checking back with them. And if there are opportunities, we'll definitely increase the virtual opportunities.
President Wilson,
Great.
if I may add, in terms of the virtual offerings, what we didn't discuss, at least in the Pacific Community Center report, we will be discussing it in the monthly activity report, or in one way, shape, or form, is the classes that we're offering for seniors that are not fitness related. They're presentations on, let's say, a life alert style system where they put a bracelet around the senior, and if the senior is lost, for whatever reason, they're experiencing dementia and they walk out of an adult day healthcare center and they show up at adult recreation center saying, I don't know where I belong, at least that bracelet will be able to track that senior and get them back to where they belong. Presentations such as that are coming up within the next couple of months. We had one successfully completed last Tuesday, I want to say, and the agency also said they do virtual bingo, so our staff is like, great, we're in. How do we do virtual bingo for seniors? So these types of opportunities are going to be available for our residents and our activity card holders or new patrons as they come up. In terms of the classes, what I do like to mention is we consolidated all of our facility-based classes into one type of offering as well. So while instructor X saying, I don't feel comfortable doing it technologically speaking, I'm not set up, I don't even really have email type of a thing, we have an instructor at a different facility saying, yeah, sure, I'll do it. So instead of saying, okay, take an exercise class with this specific instructor, this specific exercise class is being offered, reach out to us for information and we'll send you the links to whatever platform it is. And that's advantageous in a different sense as well. Typically what we've seen is the participants in our exercise classes are loyal to the instructor, not necessarily the program itself. And because you don't have a facility to base this around, they don't have a choice but to participate in the actual exercise class rather than maintaining their loyalty to that specific instructor. We've seen, some of our seniors say, I don't like instructor X, her class is too hard, but I prefer this instructor. So they will travel from ARC, let's say, to Pacific Community Center to take that class. So what we did when we went virtual is we combined all of them so that we're not duplicating and offering 7 different classes. Because every class we offer, we have to sit on the back end and crowd control and manage. Not everybody has the etiquette down when it comes to virtual meetings, muting themselves. They'll just leave their microphone open, talk to their significant other, complain about something or another that's not happening as they expected, while the entire class is listening in on the entire discussion. So it's fun doing the crowd control for senior classes. I get to do it once in a while.
Is that all your questions?
Well, I just wanted to make one other comment that I would imagine these kinds of classes, when we weren't in COVID climate, really helped to socialize individuals and create new relationships and strengthen sense of community. And certainly virtual is not the same, but when you're locked in all day, and I have an elderly mother myself, to see how challenging it is and how isolating it is, these options of virtual classes provide something in what might feel like a desert of nothing. So I just want to commend you for finding ways to continue this sense of community, given the restraints of the current climate.
I just want to also thank you for innovating and keeping things going as well as you have. And obviously the budget situation, the shortfalls, it's very daunting. And I appreciate, I'm sensitive to, I would say, the stress that places. So I'm really grateful to you. I noticed in the staff report you alluded to reassessing programs because of the decrease in purchases of the cards and so on. And I wanted to throw out a suggestion or a suggestion. maybe surveying. I don't know if you've surveyed the community or not yet, but that would be a helpful way maybe to figure out, why are they declining? Maybe it's just coincidence, or, you want to make sure if you do reassess and change the mix, that you're going to hit that sweet spot where it's actually going to increase the participation. And with respect to the question that was raised about consolidating and getting citywide or facility-wide data, that's great. The only caveat I have about that is, I hate to see staff go to a lot of effort. This year and probably the next fiscal year are both going to be so distorted by the pandemic. And I don't know if it's worth doing that, but it is something that would be helpful for the future. So with that, thank you, and we can, thank you very much. And we can move on to our next report.
Next report is 8C, Workforce Development Section Activity Report.
Hello, my name is Judith Velasco. President Wolfson, members of the Commission. I am in charge of the workforce section of the Community Services and Parks Department. We are a grant-funded section that receives funding from federal, state, and local entities to provide employment services to the community. These are no-cost services that during this time especially is needed. In the report that you have, I provided some unemployment rate data. As of July, our unemployment rate was 19.3%. If I didn't include this, but December of 2019, which was last year, the unemployment rate in Glendale was 3.6%. So you see that jump from 3.6% to 19.3%. Right now is the time that our section is committed to really securing grant funds to support everybody impacted as much as we can by COVID-19. We have been busy applying for different grant applications that will support these individuals in various areas of employment and employment activities. We were awarded 3 specific grants with a total grant award of $1.39 million. Overall, the funding is earmarked by what's called the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. So it's not necessarily tied to the CARES Act funding that we see that's being dealt out to the communities. It's actually workforce funds that have been reprogrammed specifically to assist COVID-19 individuals. For the first time ever, our workforce funds are now being used to support individuals not only with workforce activities, but also with what we call supportive service. So if individuals have lost their jobs, have been furloughed, have experienced a reduction in hours, our funds are there to support individual payments in the areas of utilities, rental, food. These are items that we have not been able to assist before, but now, due to the circumstance we are in, we are able to assist. All the grants have different start and end dates. One of the grants that's set to expire at the end of this year is called our Underserved Population Grant. That specific grant, underserved, targets individuals who are English language learners, people with disabilities, what's known as justice-involved individuals, veterans, and those needing basic education. Our services are provided out of the Verdugo Job Center. We're located in South Glendale at 1255 South Central Avenue between Los Feliz and Chevy Chase. We are co-located with the Employment Development Department. They are not unemployment insurance. However, they have basic information that they're able to guide the public with their unemployment insurance questions. We do have staff here at the Verdugo Job Center answering calls of the public related to unemployment insurance. We've actually, given our experience and knowledge of unemployment insurance, we created a frequently asked questions that's listed on the city website for individuals to find out more information. But on average, we get about 80 calls a day just on unemployment insurance. So that continues to be an area of support that we provide the community and the public. And based on our relationships with EDD and Sacramento, we're able to help a lot of people with their claims. more information related to layoffs in our region. We track a lot of data as it relates to layoffs and furloughs because that's how we're able to apply for grant applications. Just alone since March, we've received 75 warned layoff notices. And just for point of clarification, if a company in the state of California lays off 10 or more individuals, they're required by the state to file a warn. It's actually notifying the community where the layoff exists of what is happening in the community. But this time, due to the stay-at-home orders and the executive orders of the governor, businesses are not required to file warns. So even though we've received 75 warn notices, that amount could actually be double. We don't know the true warns happening in our region because businesses are not required to notify the communities of all of the layoffs happening. But just to give you a sense of what we've seen before, 75 notices in a small month period is the most we've ever seen. We've never even seen 75 notices in a one fiscal year. So it is really amazing what's happening in the community. We track market data in order to be able to apply for grant applications. We just submitted a grant application to support the impacted workers from the Hollywood Burbank Airport, that there is an estimated 14,000 individuals about to lose their jobs in the airline industry. So again, we're here to support the community. The Glendale Youth Alliance specifically supports youth employment and provides youth paid work experience and soft skills training in order for youth during this time to have the ability to learn about good work habits as well as being able to earn some money to help their families. They're specifically focused on a grant called STEPS to help youth with disabilities. And we have funding to support 80 youth with disabilities with paid work experience this year. They also received a little bit of funding for LA County for paid work experience. So just overall, really our goal is to seek additional grant funds to support the need that we see in the community due to the high levels of unemployment and the high needs in our community. And we have been really successful in transforming our, I would say, operations model virtually to make sure that individuals who need our services have access to our career counselors on a daily basis. Given time, I'll stop there. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Hi. Are there any questions from my fellow commissioners, Aberlee?
I have one question, which is just who is eligible for your services? Do they need to be Glendale residents? We are in the city of Glendale. We give priority of service to Glendale residents and Burbank residents as well, La Cañada. So part of the workforce section is we're part of what's called the workforce area, which is called the Verdugo region. So it's those three cities. However, due to the funding, if individuals are outside those cities and we have funds to support them, we'll help them or refer them to another workforce area. There's 46 workforce areas in California, and the majority of all those areas have what we call COVID-19 employment funds. So we're not able to specifically serve someone because they're outside of Glendale or outside of Burbank, then we can refer them to another workforce jurisdiction. And then you also help people who are laid off of Verdugo region companies who are not necessarily residents of the Verdugo region. Is that right?
That's correct. That's our second priority. So if you don't live in the region, but you were laid off, a company in the region, our priority is to assist you as well, especially with the COVID grants that we received. What we're trying to do right now is enroll as many people in these grants so we can ask for additional funds. There are some areas in California that they're not able to spend their money, so we show that we have enrolled so many people and the need is great. We will ask for more funding to support the impacted residents here.
It just occurred to me that with the libraries closed and the community centers closed, it must be a little bit difficult to get the word out because a lot of the times those would be the kinds of organizations that would be helping let people know about these kinds of services. How are you reaching people?
You know, that's a good question. One of the things we're doing is we do have a social media. We use our actual department social media. in Facebook, Instagram, as well as we have an individual network among what we call employment centers in California, that as soon as any of the centers has these different grants, we're bringing that to the forefront. We work closely with the Chamber of Commerce in both cities, Glendale and Burbank specifically, and we're part of their newsletters that they send out as well. So we have different partners in the city. So one of our greatest strengths is we work with nonprofit organizations and communities that provide social services. So they have our flyers to promote our employment services.
Thank you.
Commissioner Michaels?
Just to follow up on that outreach, I'm looking at the Verdugo Job Center website, which is part of the CSP page, Glendale page. As more people are relying on websites and online information, I would encourage you to take a look at that and see how more information about the programs can be more accessible to people. Possibly putting it on the main Glendale homepage, or revamping the CSP page, possibly even creating your own direct page for people. I think that would be helpful for a lot of people.
Thank you, Commissioner Michaels. We are actually, for the first time this year, we have funding to support what we call a communications plan. So we're hoping to work with a communication consultant to have a new website, new newsletter design, anything we can do to really promote these no-cost programs to the community. So we're definitely open to suggestions.
I believe having your own page or your own landing page that information can be easily shared would be a great benefit.
Yes, I agree.
If I can just interrupt to let Iris know that Commissioner Calfine left at 5:50. Thank you.
Thank you. The record will reflect that.
Is that, Commissioner Potel, did you have any question or comment?
Yeah, it's just so much going on for you guys in your department. I'm wondering, are you all looking into other ways that people can seek out education programs during this time? I know you do have the particular program for individuals with, I believe, autism at the training program at GCC for, it escapes me, mechanical engineering of some sort. I'm wondering, are there any other kinds of pursuits you're looking into for people who might be looking at this time to educate themselves in a new profession?
Commissioner Patel, I didn't catch the last part of your question, but in terms of training partnerships, we work closely with Glendale Community College. They have 4 credit classes and non-credit classes, and they are now focusing on vocational training in specific high-demand areas related to healthcare and advanced manufacturing. So the program you mentioned specifically for people with disabilities in the autism spectrum is for CNC machinist, computer and numeric control machinist. We're working with the college to see which classes they will continue to offer, because they are going to be remote learning for the rest of the academic year. So programs such as CNC machinist might not be available as it was in previous years, because it requires a hands-on lab that the student actually has to go on a machine and program. So I know that the college has to kind of pivot and decide what programs make sense to have online, and they're working with us to have kind of a diverse array of programs available for all the different skill sets that the community needs. We work with a variety of training providers in the area that have moved to an online platform. Our goal really is accessibility, so making sure if we enroll clients into training, those individuals have a laptop, have a hotspot, have printers, have the means to actually engage in training. And what we have seen is a lot of folks are not able to participate in training because of childcare demands, because of demands caring for an elderly parent, just to give an example. So to kind of find a quiet space at home to engage in a 4 or 5 hour vocational training is a challenge that we have encountered as we assist individuals with their circumstance and how we can provide them with the additional skill sets. So as we come up with these challenges, we partner up with other organizations to see how we can provide solutions. But it is something that is a focal point because a lot of industries are not going to come back. So we need to focus on skills upgrade and work with education providers to see what those programs look like and see what the client actually needs and is able to do.
Great, thank you.
I just want to thank you and for all the work that you're doing at this especially difficult time. So thank you very much for the report. Next report. I think we have one more report.
Yes, that is correct. That would be 8D, Recreation and Community Services section of the activity report for September 2020.
President Wolfson, members of the commission, we do have a PowerPoint presentation prepared, but we do know that the meeting has gone pretty long. So I leave it up to you whether you want us to go through that presentation or whether you'd like to just ask questions if you have any. So I turn to you for direction.
I know it was in the packet that I reviewed it and I had no questions. Do any of my fellow commissioners who are still present have any questions?
The one topic I wanted a little bit of information on was the cooling centers during the recent heat wave, their effectiveness, a little bit more detail on that aspect of the program.
Sure, Sevak is coming up to the podium and he can discuss a little bit more about specifically the cooling centers and answer any questions you might have.
President Wolfson, Commissioner Michaels, with regards to the cooling centers, typically LA County activates cooling centers when the weather is 95 degrees or higher. So when we look at the weather forecast for the coming days, we like to keep it within 5 days, not necessarily a 10-day forecast. We will operate or activate a cooling center. Activation entails making sure the staff is available to open and close the cooling center, and notifying the residents, whether it's through a press release through city manager's office and the public information officer, or via social media as it relates to our sites and our abilities. Cooling centers, when we first opened up, the first time we opened up was sometime in May. We operated at Maple Park Community Center and Pacific Community Center, and we had 0 attendance in the two days that we operated a cooling center. Since then, since July, we've seen our numbers increase. The most we've had at any given time is 20 people at Pacific Community Center, 16 people at Pacific Community Center. And what we're doing right now is tracking how many people are visiting the facility for the very first time and how many people have visited our facilities in the past. So if somebody showed up at Griffith Manor Park, they're required to sign in and provide a telephone number, and that's because of the current protocols and contact tracing. When we get their person's name and number, we match that up and see whether or not they've attended at Pacific, let's say, in addition to Griffith Manor, and we're counting numbers respectively. To date, the numbers that I reported to ONIG as of a week ago were 164 total duplicated participants have participated in the cooling centers, and we've operated for a total of 30 days.
I was specifically looking at the protocols for tracking, which you mentioned, and the hours of operation of how were you keeping these people entertained during the hot afternoon?
Sure. So let's start with protocols and hours of operation. When we operate the cooling centers, President Wilson, Commissioner Michaels, we're operating them from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Staff arrive shortly before 10 a.m. to start setting up for operation, and will leave no later than 6:15 p.m. Depending on the amount of usage in the facility, we might stagger their shift and have them stay longer for cleanup purposes. But the current protocols dictate that every person entering the community center must undergo an informal health screening, which is, have you been in contact with anybody that had COVID-19, or are you showing symptoms of COVID-19, flu, cough, whatever these questions are. There's a short questionnaire they ask. They undergo a temperature check via temporal thermometer, which is contactless. They sign in, sanitize their hands. They have to be wearing a face covering at all times, and proceed to where in the facility they want to sit down for the day. In terms of entertainment, they have to provide their own, whether it's their own computer or tablet, whatever the case may be, they would need to be providing their own entertainment, or a good old-fashioned book for that case. They're allowed in and out of the facility, and staff monitor. If the person's returning, they still have to undergo the temperature check when they come in. And that's because if they were out getting something to eat for 2-3 hours, and in that process develop a temperature and come back, just because they passed that screening the first time doesn't mean necessarily the second time they're coming back they're okay. So each time they leave and come back, they have to take that temperature screening. We only operate at one of two locations right now, Pacific Community Center or Griffith Banner Park. So in terms of contact tracing, we only contact whoever was at that site that reported that they're positive for COVID-19. Protocols also include that high contact touch surfaces are sanitized, disinfected regularly. We've put that at an hour interval. So if it's a touch point, whether it's the entrance, exits to doors, or tabletops, whether when a person leaves for the day, we sanitize the tabletop and chair, but whatever is high contact, we sanitize throughout the day once an hour. Restrooms, we address every 2 hours at Pacific Community Center when we're operating. If it's an outdoor restroom such as Griffith Banner Park, we allow for our parks maintenance staff to sanitize. If there's an issue where a customer says we're out of a paper product or whatever the case may be, our staff will go and assist. If Park Services staff aren't available, we'll go in and address the need. In terms of protocols, that's pretty much it. The county does limit the number of people in the space to 25% of the maximum occupancy as posted on the facility. So whereas Pacific Community Center could accommodate, let's say Gym A could accommodate 300 people seated, county said you can't exceed more than 25%, but you also have to keep in mind that each person needs to maintain 10 feet of distance from the person next to them. So if you grid out the gym, we could accommodate up to 24 people at one time. So depending on need, if there's a need to accommodate more people, we can expand to another part of the facility as our backup plan, but as of right now, those are the protocols. So at Griffith Banner Park, we won't be able to fit more than 10 people. And in reviewing the sign-in sheets every time we operate, we haven't had that many people participate. Pacific does have Wi-Fi, so people have that ability and that luxury to go online. Griffith Banner Park does not have Wi-Fi at the current moment. So whoever comes to Griffith Banner Park is a little bit more limited as to how they are entertained throughout the day. Does that answer all of it, Commissioner Michaels?
This is all my questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Potel, do you have a question, or?
I had questions about the cooling centers as well, and he covered it thoroughly.
Thank you. I just want to say I love the signs that I saw in the staff report about wear your mask. It's an easy task, and That's awesome. And the Zoom etiquette tips, we could all use those. So anyhow, thank you very much. With that, I believe we're adjourned.